that the successful shooter will be able to take the Shiva's bow, string it, and with it, by looking at the image of the target in the oil below, and a bowl of oil below, is to shoot at the target and bring the target down. Now, Shiva's bow stands for space and time. The arrow stands for consciousness. The pulling of the string to make it taut stands for the spiritual sadhana, or the intensity by which we carry out our spiritual exercise of sadhana. The movement of the arrow as it is released is the rising of your energy up your spine, and it clears as it rises up. It keeps on clearing the delusion till it reaches the forehead, where you get a vision of the truth. And of course, when it strikes the target, there you experience bliss. So the whole that metaphor means that the successful shooter must be able to experience bliss across space and time, and which is what every father likes for his daughter. That his daughter is married to a person who can look after her and make her happy across space and time. Now, when this was the challenge before the suitor. One of the challenges kings who was there was Karn. Karn, if you recall, when he had gone there, he was tipped to be one of the tipped to be the successful candidate. But before he could fire, before he could shoot the arrow, Draupadi broke the silence of that entire gathering and said that he would not accept a Sudput, a king though he may have been, the son of a Sudput, king though he may have been crowned. That left Karn very dejected, and he came back to his seat. He was dejected not because he was rejected. That was the right of the girl or the woman. So that was accepted by him. But what upset him was that he could not get a chance to prove himself. That is what was upsetting. In fact, if you recall, at the games, at the end of the games, when when he entered the arena and he challenged Arjun, again he could not be challenged. His challenge was cut merely because he was supposed to be a son of a Sudputra. So anyway, here also he had to come back and he said, but this was again another metaphor. Here the metaphor is that all of us, whether we are on the path of knowledge or on the path of action, all of us, both these paths, they come and meet the path of devotion before we experience the truth. So both the paths will certainly merge into devotion. Now, the Karn was really an innocent child, and an innocent child is a great devotee in the sense that but the child may not be as a child he is innocent, and a great devotee is one who is also becomes innocent like a child. So Karn had the aura of a guru. Now a devotee can very quickly become can attain divinity, or can attain a realization of the truth much more easily than a man of action, that is a karma yogi, or a kshatri, or even a gyan yogi, or a path of knowledge, or a jnani. Anyway, even so, the metaphor means that devotee is one who does not go on for glitter and show, but try to efface himself. Gradually he keeps on servicing others and makes himself so small, not in any derogatory sense, but in a good sense. Makes himself so small and humble that eventually he becomes a nobody. That's the time and it is then that he becomes absolutely innocent like a child, and he is ready to experience the truth. So that is what Karn was. And by rejecting this thing, Draupadi, what she meant, or what it means is that a devotee not generally, often gets swayed by the glitter and glory which a Kshatri acquires in his lifetime. Those, are, of course, they are superficial. They are not that glory which is there will not go with him anywhere. It will remain on the earth itself when he departs. But tries to detract it. It will detract the devotee from his path to devotion, from his path to the experience of the truth. That is why he has to be dissuaded. That is the meaning of that metaphor. Anyway, after that we have seen that the challenge was met by Arjun, and Arjun, when he had brought down the target, and Draupadi finally placed the nuptial garland round his neck, that all the kings who were there, they suddenly decided, they became very agitated, and they wanted to challenge him. But Arjun, along with some support from the other Brahmin groups who were there, they managed to hold the challenge, all the challengers at bay. It was then that Krishna intervened and said that on such a solemn occasion, it does not behove the guests that they create uh, they create a scene here, especially since that Brahmin had shown that he had merit. Now, these Brahmins were, of course, none other than the Pandavas. And if you recall, this Pandavas, when the King Dhrupad had announced of the Swamvar of the Draupadi Swamvar, since these people were all away in their forest, they had no means of coming to know about it. But Sage Vyas had gone to them and told them that Draupadi's Swamvar is going to be held, and it will better you go there and win the hand of Draupadi. You'll have to undertake a challenge, undertake the challenge and win the hand of Draupadi. What he was, that metaphor implied that these five Pandav brothers, they represent five different traits. Now, a trait is a trait, is an adjective by itself, it's nothing. But when these traits are applied to something or someone, then that something or someone acquires value. In this case, it was the human being. Draupadi, King Dhrupad, if you recall, is one who firmly believed that he is nothing other than the body. And Draupadi, his daughter, thus is the human body or the human being. So when these five traits are applied to a human being, then that human being becomes a kind of vehicle, with a divine vehicle, whereby you can achieve that. You can go to places, you can achieve truth on your path, and you can take a path of devotion and attain truth. That is what that metaphor means. And after Arjun had won the contest, and the nuptial garland was placed, and it quelled all the riots, etc. Not riots really, but the uprising by these kings. Then Arjun went and told Drupad that he would like to take Draupadi and get his mother's blessing. Now, when they went to get their mother's blessing, while they were approaching there, Drishtadyumna, Draupadi's brother, twin brother, if he had a suspicion that these people could not be Brahmin, because the skill required was very high, and here was a Brahmin who had managed to crack their skill. So he felt there was something suspicious. So he quietly trailed the Brahmins, the so-called Brahmins, or who are disguised as Brahmin, and his sister Draupadi, till they reached the hut. When they neared the hut of where these people were staying, then they removed the disguise, and immediately he could say that he was none of they are not a Brahmin. Then Bhim, who was there, he shouted from outside his hut that, "Mother, come and see what dan we have acquired today, what dan we have received." Mother, as usual, was there. She said sternly, "Share amongst all the brothers equally." It was later when Draupadi came inside that hut, and the Kunti saw who or what that dan was. Then she was a little concerned. She looked at Yudhishthir, inquiring, what has she blurted? Then Yudhishthir, sensing her discomfiture, immediately said, no, you don't have to worry, mother, from your mouth or your tongue, only the truth emerges. So whatever you have said is not against the Shastra, it is perfectly again, as per the Shastras too, Shastras do not rule this out. And it will be as you said. But Draupadi was very upset. She said how, and she was especially upset with Arjun because this fellow did not protest. He did not say anything. But so anyway, so immediately she could not tell anything to Kunti, the mother who had said so. Uh, Sometime a short while later, when she did get an opportunity to be with Kunti alone, then she accosted Kunti and said that, Mother, how can you do such a thing and give such a command? And then she said, what is the problem? After all, my children were also from different beings. As children of Madri, they were also from different beings. So what is your problem? Then Draupadi said, no, no, my problem is that Arjun has won me. Then the Kunti replied, well, if you can be one, you can also be shared. What is the problem? But uh, Kunti said that nevertheless, remember, a woman is not to be won or to be shared, and not one is not a thing that can be won as a prize. A woman is Lakshmi, unbounded and infinite. That you must always remember. Now, this is a very crucial thing, about Lakshmi has the last word. This is actually a metaphor that the woman is Lakshmi, unbounded, infinite. And what does this mean? Now, Draupadi was really, these are all metaphors. Draupadi really was wanting relationship when she said that Arjun has won her, that she was implying that there must be relationship between the two of them. Now, relationship is it becomes necessary in day-to-day life because we have certain needs, biological needs, physical needs, all kinds of needs, and these needs and to make us happy. And when these needs are, we assume that they can be fulfilled by somebody else. So, and initially it happens that yes, your needs are fulfilled, you're very happy, but invariably there will be stresses and strains, and then these stresses and strains which we are not able to bear, because of that the relationship breaks. So you may be in relationship today, but tomorrow that relationship may break. But if the need continues, then again they two of them they get together, and again they are happy for the time. Again there'll be stresses and strains, and again they'll part. So this thing continues with in almost everybody's life. You have differences of opinion, and the relationship is subjected to strain. Then again the need is there, so they get together, and this way it continues. But uh, now relationships, however, are governed by societal norms. You may have a relationship with one, or you may have by two or three or whatever, as the society permits. Beyond that, you can't have it. However, what Kunti meant was when she said Lakshmi is unbounded, a woman is unbounded, a Lakshmi unbounded. What she meant was that you are love personified, and that is what when you are when you come here, don't consider one of these five as different from each other. Now, in the relationship, when you have a relationship all with these five, then it means that all of them have to be looked upon equally, and your relationship also you must share equally. That sharing means, what does it mean? It is the same thing which Sage Vyas had told them, that you have to go and win the hand of Draupadi. Here Draupadi again is the five is the human being or the human body, and these five traits they come together, divine traits they come together as together, and that's what she meant that when you that is what the metaphor means, that a human being gets married to all these five traits simultaneously. It does not happen that one by one. And and Kunti's comment that they must be shared equally means that do not give any extra priority to one of them. Let's say truth, and forget about truth means stands for Yudhishthir, if you recall, and they do not give priority to others. Let's say uh, awareness or Nakul or Sahadev. Sahadev is awareness or Nakul or Bhim or Arjun. You have to give priority to equality to all of them because all these traits are important and they are equally important, although they may sometimes be listed one above the other. But listing is not important. These five traits are important. Together they form divinity. Now, just for a brief, what are these five traits? The first one was truth and righteousness. The second one, Bhim, was perseverance and yearning. And the third one, Arjun, stood for selflessness and control over the self. Nakul, Nakul was alertness and uh, focus, and Sahadev stood for awareness and tenderness. So all these five traits, five people or the five traits, they belong. They are divine traits, and they all of them they are there together, and they must be treated equally. That's the method of relationship with the five people. Our relationship is one aspect. She is also Lakshmi. Lakshmi is what is wealth. She is the goddess of wealth. She is the one who distributes wealth to everybody, not only to individuals but to the whole world. Every individual is subject to wealth which Lakshmi offers. What is this wealth? This wealth, as Swami has been explaining it to us an innumerable times, my special wealth is only love. So this is what Lakshmi this is what Draupadi is supposed to give, and this should not be confined to anybody because she is uh, unbounded, infinite, and whoever comes in contact with her when she goes to her along with her or goes to her in-laws place, any woman, there she will meet her father-in-law, her father-in-law's brothers, father-in-law's sisters, and their whole family. There'll be several who are older than her, and all these elders have to be given the same respect as she would give to anybody else. Then there'll be some of equal status, some others younger. But what she meant by what her advice to Draupadi was that you must be able to love everybody equally. You must be what they call loving. When you are loving, then you don't look for, then you don't differentiate one between the other for any reason whatsoever. When you come to the Grace Ashram, where you have so many people living inside in a joint family, apart from all the family members, she will also come across a lot of dependents, the servants, etc., and all the service providers. So Draupadi was supposed to, what she was, Kunti meant was that you should be able to give love to all those people with whom you will come in contact in the Grihast ashram, not merely your family members, not merely those with whom you are in a relationship, but even those others who may be blood relatives, who may not be blood relatives, but they are staying there, who may be sharing their accommodation. But not only those who are sharing their accommodation, even those who come in contact with you occasionally, such as your vendors, your suppliers. These people also, you should be able to share your love with them also. In fact, you should keep on expanding your love to such an extent that the entire community becomes your own. And in fact, not only your community, you keep on expanding your love till every living being becomes your own. And then when every living being and every non-living, what we call non-living, because according to our Sanatan Dharma, there's nothing like non-living. Everything is a living being, as a fragment of divinity within itself, whether it's a rock or river or tree or whatever, insects or whatever, they all are living beings. Even these planets and sun and moon, they're all living beings. So you should be able to love all of them equally and give them the same kind of attention. When you're loving, of course, then the great advantage is that, not great advantage, when you're loving, then you don't distinguish between anything or for any reason. If they are human beings trying to distinguish themselves on the basis of religion, on the basis of color, caste, language, food, habit, dress, so many divi- divi- so many ways to divide all of us. But uh, when you're loving, then it is a kind of state. It is a state of being. It is like meditative state. You become love, then you become in a remain always in that state of bliss and happiness. So loving is a state in which you remain at bliss all the time, when you're all the time so-called meditative, when you're not consciously thinking about anything else, and certainly you're not thinking about any, you're always positive, and you're certainly not thinking about any bad things about anybody. All of them you treat equally. That's what Kunti had advised. Initially, she kept had a reservation, but when she heard Kunti, she understood. Draupadi understood and said, "Okay, as you ordained, mother, I'll do that." And she performed her role, as you'll see in future, in as we proceed ahead, to the dot. She never hurt anybody, even when people were against her, in the worst of the criminals. She personally did not uh, harbored any ill feelings toward all of them. Although she was very upset at her being, as we'll see later on, she becomes upset due to certain circumstances. But still, she used to maintain her cool. Sorry, excuse me. When Drishtadyumna came to know that it was Arjun who had uh, been the successful suitor, then he rushed back to his father and narrated the incident. Then his father was a little, surprised. He says, "How can that be? These Pandavas had all been killed in the house of that Laksh, which had been built at Varnavarat. So how they reached there and how can they be there, be alive?" Drishtidyum said, "That I don't know. But what I do know for certain is that they were the Pandav brothers, and it was Arjun who had won Draupadi." Then King Drupad was very happy because he said, the reason for this swambar is well met. I've got now, as my son-in-law, the great Arjun, who had defeated me. Now with him on my side, I will be able to take revenge against Dronacharya. Recall this Drupad had kept his daughter's wedding uh, because he wanted to take revenge against Dronacharya, and he was looking for an archer or a fighter or somebody who could defeat Dronacharya. And Krishna had advised him that you have to hold a stiff test so that you can identify an archer who is as good as Arjun. That time, that time Drupad was a little upset at Arjun because Arjun had defeated him. But Krishna explained to him that no, you've got nothing against Arjun, and Arjun has nothing against you. Arjun was merely following his guru's instructions. He was to carry out his guru's instructions, and his instructions were to defeat you. So he came and fought with you and defeated you and captured you back. But by himself, he has got nothing against you. So Drupad became very happy, and he said, "Now that I've got the great this thing, archer on my side, I'll have my daughter wedded with great pomp and show, and let the whole world know that Arjun is now my son-in-law." So he sent word to Drishtraj and explaining to them what all had happened and how these Pandavas had survived, and now their wedding of the Pandavas is going to take place on such date with my daughter, and you are all invited. So he invited the King Drishtraj from Hastinapur. But Drishtraj, being blind, he did not come. He sent Vidur and he sent Kripacharya. And in presence of Kripacharya and Vidur, representing King Drishtraj from Hastinapur, a wedding of Draupadi with the five Pandav brothers, as per the desire of Kunti, took place. Now, in that wedding, if you one of the rites that was required is kanyadaan. Kanyadaan is a sorry. Sorry. Kanyadaan is sometimes looked upon considered very rude, and it upsets most of the, especially the women. The reason being that when the British East India Company they came to India, they they appointed, or rather they hired the services of one Max Muller, who was and told him to study the Sanskrit language and translate it into English so that they can all understand what this culture was all about. While translating this thing, Max Muller, he translated these three words. One was Dan, the other was Bhiksha or Bhik, and third one was Guru Dakshana, rather improperly. In fact, very incorrectly, without understanding what the culture meant or what this stood for. If you recall, I told you that Guru Dakshana did not mean a fee. It meant a dissertation or a thesis which the graduating student had to perform and show. Similarly, bhik does not mean begging. It means sustenance for the Brahmin who collected nothing, but he offered his services free of charge to everybody, not only to the students but to whoever was required. And but he had to eat something, and for that he had to some sustenance was required for his body. The sustenance was actually the bhiksha, which he had to collect, which he would go out and collect every day, so that he does not store even for the next meal. That was the kind of austerity in which the Brahmin used to live. So the Brahmins were always held in very high esteem. Dan also was another such thing. Now, in order to understand kanyadaan, we must understand what is dan. And I think before we understand what is dan, it is better to understand what dan is not. In the society which grew up in, which came up in Europe initially, in the long time ago, everything used to be on barter, which means one fellow produces something. Let's say he produces potatoes, the other produces cereal. So they used to each exchange potatoes with cereal, and that's how they used to run the whole society. Later on, when the money was invented, then it became this trading becomes easier because now everything could be reduced to one common denominator, that money terms, whatever that unit may be, and everyone could trade independently, and you did not have to become both a producer and a purchaser at the same time. Otherwise, you have to give your produce to somebody else and take his produce from somebody else. So you're both a purchaser and a buyer in barter. But here it was not like this. Now, person could, if he had enough money, he could buy something, or if he wanted to sell, he could sell against that money. Now, the great disadvantage of this kind of system was that it led to greed. And people now didn't have to produce anything, even that money could keep on multiplying. And this led to the creation of wealth, uneven distribution of wealth, and in fact, great uh, disparity in wealth. Now, in order to ease that guilt, because most of these uh, very rich people, they would undertake. Okay, it need not always be for guilt. It may be from genuine feeling that let me help somebody out also. They would do what is called charity. Charity is a demeaning word and a demeaning exercise or an action wherein you really think the other fellow is, you pity the other person because he is not as rich as you, and you oblige him by giving him some alms. Now, this is not dan. Dan is certainly not charity because charity is demeaning. In India, the sages had realized that there is divinity in each one of us. Every individual is divine. And since every individual is divine, you could not really offer charity to divinity. That is preposterous. It was really foolish and ridiculous. You cannot offer charity to divinity because divinity is everything, and everything emanates from divinity. So, what charity can you give to God? Secondly, what they'd also seen was that everything, whatever man obtains in his lifetime, he accumulates. He gets only from nature. He comes empty-handed, and he will go empty-handed. Nothing that he collects here is therefore belongs to him. He has to leave nature before he lets go of that person. It will reclaim everything, whatever that person has had. And in fact, when the person is dead, then too we put that body on the funeral pyre, and there even that body is reclaimed by nature. And in fact, there are verses there which say that, which in the Vedas, which say that this body also belongs to nature and is now, which was in the custody of this certain that soul. With that soul having departed, now this body is returned back to nature. That was the that is the situation it was at the time of death. Now, it also meant that you do not own anything. Since you do not own everything, everything belongs to somebody else. The value which you have attributed to various things, gold, silver, or food, or whatever, is arbitrary. Therefore, there's no point in collecting it, especially since you cannot take it with you. And therefore, what these sages had said, that the best way to shed off your the so-called acquired wealth, on wealth that you material wealth that you acquired on this earth, you know you can't take it away with you. So it is better to dispose of while you're still there, and that can be disposed of through a practice called dan. Dan was a righteous offering to somebody who needed it. And the best thing about this dan was that when you part with it, when you know that it does not belong to you, you are only a custodian on behalf of the nature or God, and it has to be left behind, and or it has to be distributed to whoever. So they would keep on distributing without getting attached to it, even if they have collected it, and sometimes, especially the merchant, would be able to collect wealth, but they would not be attached to it. They would keep on not donating. They'll keep on giving dan, offer dan to the needy. Now, this dan could be offered when it is especially material wealth. It used to be offered through the Brahmin. The wealthy merchant would call the Brahmin and tell them that there's so much dan I've got to give. Now, this dan, of course, could be for anything. It could be, material wealth, gold and silver. It could be food. It could be clothes. It could be some house or something. It could be land, bhudan. It could be even knowledge or vidya. It could be even shram, labor, your effort. So all kinds of dan were there. And the best thing about dan was that when each one is sharing, the question of, superior and inferior between the two people did not arise. Let's say a Shud would offer a dan of shram dan, of his labor and skill, and Brahmin would offer vidya dan, knowledge as dan. Then the merchants and the Kshatri, if they accepted it, they would offer in whatever manner they could. For example, a Kshatri could acquire land, and that he would give land, or the merchant, he would part with gold and silver that he had acquired. So since everybody is dependent upon each other, there's no question of, in this society, in the Indian society, the high and low were automatically uh, disappear. Of course, it got corrupted with the caste system and accumulation of money through greed. But in principle, Dan was a great equalizer of in the society. And another advantage Dan had was that you don't become attached to anything, to whatever property you may be possessing, which in any case at the time of death you will have to leave behind. So this was the concept of Dan. Dan was in fact a very useful thing and a non-violent way of distribution of wealth. Not only non-violent way, it was non-demeaning. You did not demean the other person. So Dan was a very good system, and but it has been misunderstood. So the kanyadaan also in this has to be seen in the same light. Kanya was the most important. Yeah, as far as Dan is concerned, Dan was given us something of utmost importance in your life, to selected person worthy of receiving it, uh, capable of taking better care of the thing than you, at the correct time under right circumstances without being forced, and after following scriptural injunction, preceded by sankalp, declaration or desire or intent, followed by confirmation that the committed act has been completed, and providing a guarantee that the committed, whatever had been committed, will not be taken back. And secondly, nothing was accepted in return. The receiver also would confirm that he had received and commits to take good care of whatever has been given to him as dan. Now, dan, when primarily it used to be given to the Brahmin, And the Brahmin would not keep it for himself. Of course, it would help the Brahmin also take care of his long-term need little bit, but the needs of the Brahmin were very few in any case. And thereafter, the Brahmin would also, since he was in touch with everybody, he would be a kind of a, you know, distributor of wealth of dan to every individual without anybody coming to know about it. That quietly he would, whenever he met the other person, and if the other person needed some wealth, let's say his roof has blown off or his, his produce, the grains which he had produced has become wet due to rain. So the dan which he had received from the wealthy merchants, he could distribute among them anonymously without anybody knowing about it to whom dam has been given and without anybody come to know from where dan has come. So there's no question of any feeling up big and small. That is the big advantage of dan. In the same spirit came the kanyadaan. Kanya, as we have already seen, in Draupadi, not Draupadi, Kunti had mentioned that uh, is, Kanya is Lakshmi, unbounded, infinite and unbounded. And giving of such a and all and everything which we had, including our children. Our children also don't belong to us. They may have emerged through us, but they don't belong to us. Just like Draupadi and Drishtidum, that emerged from that havan, that fire. So normally children, they all emerge through their parents, but it is not that they belong to that parent. They're all individual souls. So, and the parents really are only custodians of the child. And as custodians of the child, it is the responsibility of the parents to ensure that not only is that child taken good care of, but is trained and um, informed of all the useful things that will help him or her in her life in becoming happy and making the whole society happy also. So uh, Kanya was looked after by the father and the family, the mother, and provided the best care. And at the time of Kanyadan, the father would affirm that the girl, that the daughter is his daughter, which may be biological or otherwise, it may be adopted daughter, but that she is the most important person in his life, and for whom he took more care of himself, of her rather than himself. He devoted upon her, left no stone unturned to see that she was well looked after. Also, he confirmed that they have found a person worthy of being and capable of looking after his daughter, the daughter that is Kanya, and uh, and it is through whom this daughter is being offered. Now, if you recall, the practice in ancient India was not that the groom was the boy would go and select the girl. It was the prerogative of the girl to select the groom, and she would be unless she was satisfied that marriage could not take place. Then he would confirm that the person we have selected is one who could take care of the daughter much better than the father himself. Also, that none of the three were being forced into any relationship. It is not that any pressure is has been placed upon the daughter. He does not want to get rid of his daughter. That she is not a burden upon him. Even if she had not got married, she would still be fine. He would still look after her. But since they have found a groom worthy of taking it, who would be looking after her very, very well, that's why he agreed to that marriage and to the Kanyadan. For further, he also confirmed that this whatever action he's taken in handing over the custody of the daughter to somebody else, no money is involved. That means he has not taken any monetary benefit. He is not trying to sell his daughter. That no monetary benefit he is taking or any other kind of benefit he is getting. It means essentially that he is not selling his daughter. Now, this was the concept of the Kanyadan, and naturally, it was such a advanced thing that that which was very prevalent in the society. This was the concept. It was unfortunate during translation. This has been all muddled up And Kanyadan has been reduced to, has been dubbed as if you're giving a charity to, and that is demeaning. Charity is a absolutely no word in spirituality in among our culture. You cannot have charity. Charity is very demeaning. And certainly Kanyadan, you're not giving that your daughter in charity to somebody else. You are doing a great favor to the person to whom you are giving, because she is a uh, I don't know whether your people, I requested that we read that chapter 66, section 66 upon the Duryodhan gets married to Bhanumati. If you're not, please kindly read that again. I won't go into detail. But briefly, the girl who gets married, she's the one who's really an outsider in a family. All others are related by blood. Here she comes here, and she has to get she has to create a space for herself. It is therefore very necessary that all those people, that the house where she goes, they appreciate the worth of that girl who has come there, and and that the sacrifice that she is making, and treat her with the great respect that she deserves. That was a Kanyadan. Okay. Now, after the Kanyadan, of course, then what happens is that the marriage ceremony being over, a lot of people were there. Krishna was also there, and for that this marriage ceremony, what Drupad had done was he invited Kunti and the five brothers and said, "You don't have to live in the hut anymore. You come and live in the palace." And he had given them another separate palace where they could live. But and the Pandav brothers also, since they're now a strong ally in the form of Drupad, they thought there's no point now remaining in hiding. Let everybody can come to know about it also. So both the purpose was served, that uh, not only had Drupad got a very powerful uh, set of warriors, but the Pandav brothers also had got a very powerful ally, and therefore the hiding from Duryodhan, etc., was not necessary. And when this after the marriage of the Draupadi to the Pandav brothers, since Kunti was there, Krishna decided to call upon her, and Kunti was really Krishna's aunt, uh, Krishna's father's sister. So the five Pandavas, they were in fact, uh, and Krishna, they were all first cousins. Yeah, what we call in Hindi Mama. The uh, Krishna was Mama's son, the first cousin. Now, this relationship also is very important, as we shall see as we progress in the story. In fact, everything in the Mahabharata is very important and very specific, whether it's relationship, whether it's world, even the simple word that she is Lakshmi, unbounded and infinite. It's very important. So, whatever, उसमें हर चीज हर word का एक specific meaning है and it is important.